afternoon, everybody. Welcome to your Tuesday edition, a wild Tuesday for the global community. My name is Merlin Rothfeld. This is the TraderMerlin Show, and welcome my regular guests if you are new, which I probably don't have any new people out there. It's probably all regulars, but if you are new, hit that subscribe button so you can join the show live at 2 p.m. Pacific time, Pacific time every Monday through Friday. Just about every Monday through Friday as I take some time off. So hope you all had a good trading session out there. This show is going to be slightly different just because it revolves around such a macro piece of information. Question came in from Ken, and I actually got a couple others that were somewhat similar. So I thought I would start off with putting the question out there. What's your perspective on the Poland attack by Russia? So for those of you who may not have noticed, we came out this morning with a very good PPI number, right? It was half of what was expected. Therefore, markets really started doing well, although I was watching them and they really weren't, at least from my perspective, rallying up as much. So I kind of felt like because of CPI last week and PPI that it was already somewhat priced in, and I started building a short position. I told you yesterday I had 20 puts on the Qs, 10 puts on the S&P. Today I have 40 on the Qs and 40 on the S&P. So I almost tripled my position there during the day. So as the market was progressing, I realized it's just going sideways here off of great news. And then, of course, you have the reports that a missile from Russia landed in Poland. Now, digging a little bit deeper into it, they're saying, well, it was an errant, my bad, it was a misfire. And, I get a misfire. Like, if I throw a ball and I'm throwing it across the street, but I actually accidentally hit the neighbor's house, I get that. That's a misfire. If you look at this was 4 miles over the border, and unless they're attacking a city that is directly on the border, my guess is that was deliberate. And I don't know, I don't want to get political here, but it almost feels like Putin is trying to entice the global community to step in. And this, of course, being Poland, which is a NATO country, gets protection. And the question is now, do they invoke Article 5, and does this lead us to World War? So I thought, why don't we start there and go? And I'll do my best to make this not political. But a lot of people thinking this may be the start. And I think markets reacted a little bit nervously today after the reports of that bombing. I'll talk about what Article 5 is here in just a second. Yeah, I did that when I was a young kid, Steve. I actually did accidentally break a window with a golf ball, and I decided to run and hide, but I went back and admitted my fault later on. So let me read what Article 5 is just so everybody understands. There's two articles that are important. Article 4 basically just says that all NATO countries are allowed to bring collectively, so they can all have an open conversation about any issues which may be facing their country. Clearly, Poland called an emergency meeting of NATO, which is Article 4, and said, listen, we got to talk about this because a missile came across the border from Russia, killed 2 of our people. Now, it was 2 people. It was definitely the loss of life. But Article 5 is the big one that everyone's talking about right now. And here's what it says directly from NATO. The parties agree that an armed attack is got to be one of the biggest run-on sentences I think I have ever seen. But I will do my best. The parties agree that an armed attack against one or more of them in Europe or North America shall be considered an attack against them all, and consequently, they agree that if such an armed attack occurs, each of them, in exercise of the rights of individuals or collective self-defense recognized by Article 51 of the Charter of the United Nations, will assist the party, blah, 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 blah. I'm just going to stop right there because it's just too much. Basically, what this is saying is now they have to look at this and go, was this really a deliberate attack or was it an accident? And to go into a full-on conflict war with this quote-unquote errant missile, I don't know. I think it's a bit of a stretch. I hate to say this, but I do believe personally at some point we are going to have NATO and global community go to war with this. So I chose this picture here because obviously you've got the missile. This is more of a bomb, really, being dropped over in the Poland area, right outside the Ukraine. But I thought the color coding was interesting. Obviously, the United States, most of Europe, and some of the Middle East here, also Australia, we'll just call those the Allied at this point. And then you can see Russia and China. And it's weird to put Mongolia in there, but I think Mongolia is just like, wherever China goes, we'll go. The question is here kind of how does China posture in this, right? Are they going to be okay with just bombing random people like Poland, or do they kind of step back a little bit and step up and, hey, you know what, that was a mistake on Russia's part, we're not going to join them in the fight? Given what's going on from a political perspective, you would think that Russia is going to join, or China will join Russia in the fight. GD says, not a nice question but are 2 people really worth World War III? I totally agree with you. I mean, it's a horrible thing to say. No loss of life should be there, but to what extent do you let Vladimir Putin continue to push, right? And could this be one of those things that's a test to say, okay, well, I'll do that and see, you're kind of looking around going, did anything happen? Did anybody come back at me because of that? Okay, maybe I'll put more pressure on that border, and hell, maybe I'll even invade Poland. I'm just being completely out of the box here. I don't know. I don't really, I don't focus too much on this stuff. What I do feel is that Putin keeps pushing. And if he keeps pushing like this, ultimately we are going to get an escalation and NATO will step in. If that does happen, the Polish border is a logical start because we've already seen forces building up over there. NATO forces have been building up, basically saying if anything occurs on our side, we're going to take action. And all of a sudden we get something to happen. So it will be more, exactly, Alan, 2 more and then 10 more and then 50 more and then 100 more. I mean, you just don't know. At a certain point, whether you're pro-Russia or pro-Ukraine, you have to look at this and go, the loss of life is not worth it. We have to end this conflict as soon as possible because, let's be honest, it's kind of stupid, this conflict. Anyway, so I don't know which way it's going to go. I don't think that they're going to invoke Article 5 yet. I think it's going to take something a little bit more dramatic, like 2 missile strikes, right? The single, you could make an argument that, yes, it was a misfire, but honestly, 4 miles away, that's a pretty significant misfire. But I'll give you 1 at this point. I know. I try not to, Andrew. It's just tough because this is going to shape our markets. When we look out here, and again, my opinions mean absolutely bupkis. They mean nothing. Nobody knows exactly what's going to happen. You just have 2 people that are going to, or not 2 people, but Putin is going to continue to push, and I think someone's going to have to push back. If you look at what happened out there today, or actually, let me take a step back. Let's look at the bigger picture. Get some of these lines off the screen here. We have been seeing most of this decline in the equity markets due to economic concerns, due to inflation, due to declining GDP, the housing market, etc. So that's pretty clear cut as to why that's happening. Now, if we do go into some global conflict, there is normally a very sharp knee-jerk reaction down. So if, let's say, we do enter into some heavy conflict with Russia on this to try to just put it to rest, you might get something that looks like this. And I mean, it's usually very aggressive. But I'll do this. It'll be something like this, and then all of a sudden what you get is a huge rip up in the markets. Wars historically have tended to do good for financial markets, and it's horrible. Nobody wants to see conflict. Nobody wants to see, loss of life. But I think that the perspective is that as soon as we go into conflict, then it creates a ton of jobs for the U.S. You have a ton of services being created, whether that's uniforms or weapons. So, things like Lockheed Martin and et cetera doing great during that period of time, or ammunition. We get more consumption. We get a greater GDP print, and all of a sudden the economy starts to do well, even though it's something that's absolutely horrible watching the loss of life here. So something to keep in mind, and I mentioned I almost tripled my short position today based off of that. Let me show you intraday kind of what drew me to this conclusion. It was not because of the war, or not because of the potential for war. What drew me into a short today was, as you look over the past few days, right? So here is our NASDAQ marketplace. And let's go to a 15 so I can show you a little clearer picture. So this is kind of why I jumped on it today. If you look here, what you're looking at is the chart of the NASDAQ going back until the 8th of November, right? So you can see when that CPI number came out and markets just screamed to the upside. That was a slight decline, right? Just slight decline in the inflation numbers according to CPI. Well, today we also had the same thing right here, but look how the market just barely reacted and then started just giving it right back. If that in fact was something that the markets were thinking is going to be globally changing as far as inflation goes, we would have seen another 3 or 4% up move today, but we didn't get it. So as we started to form this pattern right here, this is today, there was the news at 5:30 when the PPI numbers came out. I'll show you that chart here in just a second. We see how they ripped up and then started drifting back down. I just started buying more and more and more and more puts. Now, right now, it actually turned out great for a while. It was just really accelerating to the downside. And here we sit in the after-hour session. You have such great news, and I'll show you the economic calendar here just so you guys can take a peek at that one if you haven't seen it. Here is your PPI number. They were expecting it to rise from 0.2% to 0.4%, which still means that there is inflation there, right? I mean, it's not like inflation's done. It's just not rising as sharply as it did before. So noteworthy here is they were expecting 0.4. We came out at the same number we did, which was 1.2%. So markets rejoiced over that one. And then you see the core CPI, when you take out food and energy, did not rise at all. So month over month, we have not seen an increase in prices. That's pretty much the gist of it. Now, when I'm looking at this, part of the reason why I made such a big position move today is the CPI numbers were critical to steer the mind of the Fed, to potentially get them to go, you know what? Maybe we don't raise 75. Maybe we don't even raise 50. Maybe we only raise 25 basis points. Right? That was the talk track I gave for the Monday morning must-knows that I do for Online Trading Academy. And if you look at the Fed funds futures here, I'll bring it up for you just a second. The Fed funds futures did not really change. You saw more of a decline towards the 50 basis points, but notice the percentage. Yesterday was an 80% chance we were going to see a 50 basis point increase. Today it's 85. So it made the markets feel a little bit more warm and fuzzy that the Fed's not going to go 75. There was some belief, a little bit of talk track that said we might get 25 basis points only, and that would, of course, be a big catalyst. So I was watching this morning. I was watching the Fed funds futures. I saw that they were dropping, but I didn't really see it drop into the 25% mark. You notice that the percentages here, this top line down at the bottom that I'm highlighting in blue, that is the current prospect for a 25 basis point increase, and there's literally no chance, right? No chance of that according to the Fed funds futures right now. So for that reason is why I started building a bigger position. I was selling into momentum. The only negative part for me is if I look at this taller time frame, I wasn't really selling into any strong supply zone, right? We could move, create a supply zone over here if you wanted to. And I mentioned the other day that I don't believe personally that this is a really strong one, but lo and behold, we did tiptoe into it. So I did not start shorting as we were deep in that zone. I started shorting as we came out of that zone. So I did more of a confirmation trade there. S&P 500 looks relatively similar, although there was no real supply here to talk about. The good news is we had a hammer formation, shooting star. Wow, stop talking so quick, Merlin. We had a shooting star formation yesterday, and now we have another one on today's market. So this is a very good sign for me because I am net short on this one. You can see that the topping tails have been getting bigger, and the range today represents a lot of indecision. Really curious to see what happens in the next 24 hours, whether we get some follow through here and profit taking, going into the weekend, which of course is many days away. We got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but going into the weekend net long with this kind of uncertainty, I think really is going to spook a lot of people. And I think you'll probably see by Friday a bigger sell-off here. So that's my justification for it. That said, let me run through your top 7 here just so we can start. Going to the Dow futures, not much to speak of, right? You have 3 days of pretty much solid indecision. You have just 3 days of long topping tails, very small real bodies. That just reflects indecision, and the Dow only up 0.13% today. Gold, still looking great, although silver gave back a bit. Gold is up 0.3%, 1782. But I really don't have much to say here other than my calls are going to get taken away, or my calls are going to get exercised and taken away from me. On that one, I'll lose my gold, but that's okay. I collected a lot of premium. S&P 500, we just looked at that one. You have something similar to the Dow, which is not as much indecision in the S&P. You have bigger real bodies on that. But I love the topping tail today. It really does reflect selling pressure. And again, just a candle by itself doesn't mean anything. It's what is the follow through in reaction to that. We'll see if the negative news precipitates. If there's any action by Poland and NATO tonight or tomorrow, we'll probably see these markets sell off pretty handily here. Crude oil. You would think that might have a little more of a pop after what happened with the announcement and knowing that there's even more increased tensions with Russia. It was up 1.22% today. $86.92 is where we're at this moment. Still on that line, although I don't like the way it's closed kind of down below it twice. That doesn't really appeal to me, but the line is still going to stay there. Andrew says, the wicks are wise. Yes, they are. They tell you a lot. Same thing for the Russell. I did not add any positions to the Russell. I am out of the Russell at the moment, but you look at this price chart, you're up into an area of supply on it right now, right around 1900, which is one we talked about a couple weeks ago on the show. Maybe some opportunities. Again, I would wait for confirmation for anybody who is not in it right now. Don't rush out there and just start shorting the market because I'm short. Make sure, I think at this point you're waiting for confirmation. NASDAQ. finishing up 1.41%, but look how big the gains were for the day. The NASDAQ was really rocking at one point. I'll go and show you from yesterday's close to our peak today. NASDAQ was actually up 3.27%. I mean, that was looking great at one moment in time. Came smack dab in that overhead supply level and started to fall out of it. Still an up day. I mean, 1.44% is still not too shabby overall for the NASDAQ, but showing weakness near the end as it came back down. Now, in the after hours, it's drifting down a little bit, or at least it was drifting down, just slowly drifting down after the markets closed. But again, we have a long way to go until those markets open up tomorrow morning. And in the crypto world, hey, Bitcoin moved up a little bit. Let's go to the daily here because the 5-minute looks fine. It's the daily just outright sucks. 4.65% down for Bitcoin, closing at 16,750. And since we're on that topic, we talked about FTX on the show the other day and how they're probably going to go under. Here's your FTT token, down another 11.8%. Ooh, okay, so this is... Oh, great. Okay, this is great. FTX is just not even listed on their exchange anymore. So I'm going to have to go find the FTX token on another exchange. I'll probably go to Binance to find that one. So let me real quickly add it in here because FTT has not been looking good at all. Let's see, FTT dollar, and we'll use Binance. Yeah, that's perpetual futures. Interesting. I don't even know this exchange. Never heard of BingX. But all of these are on futures contracts. It's like nobody wants to trade that token, but I'm going to try to find a spot one for you here. Binance is not letting there be a perpetual futures contract. All right, what do we got? $1.49. So just tanking, and we'll probably continue to go down there. And there's some other ones that are on that list that just don't look very pretty. Okay, let me move on from there and talk about some of the other pieces. And again, with regards to Article 5, I hope it doesn't happen, but, ultimately, what's going to be the resolution for all this? Do we just continue to watch, Russia attack Ukraine and not participate? I mean, ultimately, it's not the U.S. fight, although nobody wants to see a bully pick on a much smaller opponent. Who knows? Maybe this will escalate in the next few days, but I've got a net short position. It just seems like the odds are that this is going to escalate. I lived in Italy for a long time, and I'm going to offend a lot of Italians here, but Italians are masterful at having a full-on verbal altercation and sounding like they're going to kill each other with what they say. And they just throw their hands around, and they start pointing fingers, but they'll never actually make contact. And I think that this is one of those things where it sounds like there's been this jostling going back and forth between Ukraine and Poland, United States, the European Union, Russia, and it's this kind of finger pointing. And it's one of those ones where the guy's standing there going, touch me. I dare you to touch me. Just frickin' touch me. Touch me. Just touch me. Shut up and touch me. And I think today Russia gave a little poke and said, all right, we'll see what you got. So next few days could be interesting. That's it. I'm gonna leave that one alone. So let's go look at, unless you have other comments and feedback, I don't want to make political statements here, but that altercation is absolutely going to have an impact on the environment that I live in, which is financial markets. Common Coop, premise for Article 4 per Poland's president. Yes. So Article 4, remember, that's just simply saying let's call an emergency meeting and talk about this. So there's two things that have to happen. Number one, the emergency meeting, which Poland has every right to call that one. No big deal. To me, that's no big deal at all. It just says NATO is going to talk about the issue. The second part of it is, was this missile strike a strike or was it an accident, a stray missile? And that's what they're going to have to prove. Do we go to World War III because somebody had an errant missile, or do they come to the conclusion, have some proof that this was actually directed, pointed, and launched just to see what would happen? That's way beyond my pay grade, and I'm just going to hopefully be riding those waves in the market, and hopefully there will be as little life lost as humanly possible, because nobody wants to see that. The only thing we know for sure, guys, is regardless of your religion, your political affiliation, your health, we have one life. Be the best you can, and treat everybody else good. Come on. Anyway, let's go to your economic or earnings calendar for today. This was an interesting one because you do know we have retail sales numbers coming out tomorrow, and Walmart kicking butt. You see, Walmart beat by 13.6%. They were supposed to make $1.32. They came out at $1.50, and they were soaring today. That was a before market open one. They were up 6.5%, and same with Home Depot. So this paints the picture for tomorrow for a very rosy retail sales numbers, which I'll talk about here at the end of the day. Here is your Walmart chart, and I I hate BMOs. Before market open, earnings announcements are always, I just find them really boring because you don't really get the crazy volatility in action. Now you can see in the shaded, you guys tell me, is this beige, yellow, gold? I have no clue what color this is because I am colorblind, but I know this one's like aftermarket was light blue, and then this looks to me like, I'll call it gold. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, and I'll be forever corrected. But you can see when they came out with earnings, they shot up, gave a lot of it back, and then started to rally off of that PPI data like everything else did. So all in all, a great day for Walmart. When I look at that long-term picture, we'll start there. It's interesting that Walmart closed that gap, right? We gapped down on their last earnings back in May. And back in June, they also said we're going to have a really, really rough quarter going forward. And I've said this so many times that quite often these companies will issue statements like that to lower the bar on their earnings announcement. Now, when I look at these earnings numbers that came out today for Walmart, I don't personally track earnings as close as some, like the Investor Channel and Colin Teddards, but hopefully we'll get him back on the program here one day. Did they lower this bar where their estimate was 132? Did they lower that based off of this announcement that happened here on July 25th of this year? Remember they said we're going to have a really rough quarter going forward, blah, 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 and all of a sudden they have kick-ass numbers, right? They beat their earnings. I love it when it just feels like it was a rigged game and just kind of, almost fraudulent when you think about it. They're saying here that the markets suck. Our business is going to do horrible. It jumps from 132, falls all the way down to 119. So you had a $14 slide in the price of their shares, which is over 10%. And then all of a sudden, I'd love to see who on the inside at Walmart was buying on the 26th of July. Like if I'm the SEC, that's who I'm going after because clearly you created this big downward move and you most likely knew that your quarter was going to be good, but you allowed yourselves to lower the bar and now all of a sudden you exceed it and lo and behold, here we are, right back there, closing the gap. And remember, Walmart was all the way down to about 117, 30% higher. Great day for Walmart. And then you got Home Depot, HD. They didn't perform as well, and really nothing technical here to speak of, but they were up 1.63% off of a slight beat on their earnings numbers. So, that was it. Is that really all I had to talk about today? I'm at 23 minutes. Yeah, right, Gretchen? I mean, we don't have... our time is so short that you try to do good things, try not to lie, try not to cheat, try not to steal, try to treat people with respect. Because ultimately, it's kind of bizarre to me when you think about how society functions. You have some cultures, some societies, and some religions that hate other ones just because they don't believe the same thing as you. Well, the only thing that we know 100% for sure is that we're all going to die at some point. So why not rush it? I have friends that always tell me, when I die, I want to go to heaven. I'm going to go to heaven because heaven is... that's where I want to be. It's like, well, I look at things a little bit differently. Certainly, if there is some afterlife peace and I get to go to heaven, I'd rather go there than hell. But reality for me is I think we should live every day like your life here right now. This is heaven because that's all you can 100% guarantee me is that we are here and we can live the best lives we possibly can. And hopefully by bringing up other people around us and helping people, whether it's this channel or your community service or things you do to bring people up, it makes society better as a whole. So quit hating people. And I don't point that at you guys. It just, in my mind, it drives me nuts to get such hatred in this world. Okay, if you guys have questions, send them on in because that was pretty much my talk track for today. I don't have much else to go into. I'm going to show you the economic calendar for tomorrow, and then I will answer any questions you guys have, and then I'll wrap things up. So here's what we got cooking for tomorrow. As I mentioned, it is retail sales week. We've had Walmart, we've had Home Depot. Tomorrow, I'll even throw the graphic since I bought it. You've got your popcorn trade of the day, which for those of you who might be new, popcorn trade of the day means that you should grab yourself a bowl of Orville Redenbacher popcorn. You should kick back with your feet up on the desk, put your chart in a 1-minute time frame, put it on extended hours trading, and watch when NVIDIA comes out with earnings. They have their earnings tomorrow, and NVIDIA has been a wild one, man. With regards to market volatility, it was down at about $108 about 3 weeks ago, and we're already at 166. I mean, it's screaming to the upside here. There is your NVIDIA chart. I think a lot of expectations that they're doing fairly well, although they have moved up a lot with regards to price appreciation since October 13th to the peak we saw today. NVIDIA is up 57%, which for anybody who's holding it, I'm sure you absolutely love it. Yeah, Thomasina, if you can see, so the problem is if it's insiders, there's a delay. So Thomasina says, I can see who bought and sold Walmart. Let me know if you want specifics. Yeah, I do. Because unfortunately, there's going to be a delay. And enough time has passed, so you could probably go back and see that data, that they have to file, right? If you're an insider and you're buying shares, a CEO, president, director, you have to file. So that would hopefully be put in there so that, you could see those numbers. It'd be interesting to see. Interesting to see that one. So let me really quickly go back to your NVIDIA here. That's going to be your popcorn trade of the day, which comes out after market close. But there's a whole bunch more. You've got Cisco, Target, Tencent, Lowe's companies, TJ Maxx. So a bunch of other big retailers. The two that I'm excited about are the AMC, the after market close companies. That's going to be NVIDIA and Cisco Systems. It might be a short show. NVIDIA and Cisco, those will be the exciting popcorn trades. The other ones that are before market open are going to be Target, Lowe's, and TJ Maxx. But that leads us into the retail sales number. And it's really hard for you guys to read this. There were so many of the economic announcements coming out tomorrow that it just looks really small here. So I'll read through them for those that can't see this. Maybe you're watching on a smartphone or something. You really have a ton of announcements tomorrow for the U.S. and for Canada. I mean a ton for the U.S. So Canada, you've really got housing data and CPI, which of course everybody wants to know what's going on with CPI. The expectation is that there's going to be a significant increase in consumer price index numbers for Canada. You can see the previous month was 0.1% gain. They're looking at 0.8% gain month over month. That's huge. Remember, we just came out at 0.2, and they're looking at 0.8. That is a significant difference in the rate of increase of prices for consumers. You look down below that, though, at 5:30 Pacific time, so 1 hour before the markets open, another biggie, retail sales. The numbers look like expectations are very positive there. Previous month was 0.1%. They're looking at a potential 0.5%. I think we'll get some clarity from the Walmart earnings last night, but also from tomorrow's numbers. But this retail sales numbers come out, again, before market open, so it'll all be after the fact when you look at the company's earnings. For the U.S., you also have capacity utilization rate, industrial production. You have some FOMC members speaking. You have business inventories, NAHB housing market index. You have crude oil inventories, and you have TIC long-term purchases. It's a doozy of a day. The only ones that are happening during market hours are going to be, FOMC member Williams will be speaking, but the business inventories and NAHB housing market index, as well as crude oil and TIC, all happen as the market is already open. So those are ones that could create some volatility. Of course, you oil traders know that at 7:30, which is going to be 1 hour into the market, you generally get some big swings on Wednesdays when that number comes out. And let's go to, I already went to the earnings. I already went to economic. I think I got most of it covered. All right. Let me go through here. Tom says, Google Maps car hasn't been within 5 minutes of the village where the missile... Yeah. Because that's your litmus test? If Google Maps hasn't been there, it doesn't count. It's an errant missile. If Google Maps has been there, now we have a conversation point. Gayer, good to see you. Been a while. No, there will never be a short show. There cannot. Yeah. It will be shorter today. I'm not going to go full hour. That's for darn sure. But I'm not going to go. I'll go over 30 minutes. Let's see. Merlin, do you trade the 3 white soldier patterns? If so, how do you trade it? Nope, I do not. Nope. So there's this belief that there's 2 patterns, 3 white soldiers or 3 black crows, and generally what they are 3 really big candles of the same color. So a white candle would be a green candle, and a red candle would be a black candle. So if you see 3 really, basically they have to open at the high and close at the low, and you get 3 big ones like that in a row. It's deemed to be a reversal pattern. I don't believe it. I don't put that much stock in it. The reason why I don't, Eric, is it's kind of hard to trade it, right? Where do you set your entry? Where do you set your stop loss? Because those candles are so big, the range is, I just find them to be ineffective. It's much more easy for me to be responsive to something like a Harami or a shooting star or a hammer formation than some of these other ones like an abandoned baby or a falling window. I mean, there's so many different names. There's a book out there. Share the snapshot? Oh, I will. There's so many other different names of candlestick formations. Steve Nissen literally wrote the book on candlestick patterns. And honestly, I don't believe you need to buy his book. You can go out there and you can type in Steve Nissen candlestick book PDF, and you'll see them all online. Read through those graphics real quick, and you'll find that there's too many to name. There's literally a name for every candle by itself and every 2 and every 3 candles in combination. There's some name for it. Too much. You're overthinking it, right? There's the KISS method to trading, which is keep it simple, stupid. And I absolutely live by that one. I'm trying my best. Well, I try my best, but I've been trying my best over the years to consistently reduce the amount of things that I'm looking at, which could hinder me, which could potentially slow down my decision-making process. And it goes right back to trade plan evaluation. I'll look at something and say, all right, I'm going to remove that because it's just not giving me the results for the amount of time I'm analyzing it or utilizing it. Ultimately, you get something that's much cleaner. I think most people look at a price chart and you've got so many lines. I'm very different than Scott McCormick, right? Scott McCormick's got lines all over the place. But I know traders who have so many indicators on their charts that they can't even really tell what price is. It's just too much of a mess. So I think you really just need to keep it simple. Look for supply and demand zones. Keep your eye on the greater trends, and that's the way you do it. Let me keep going here. Took a snapshot, and we'll send it to your email. Okay, let me check my email real quick here. Let's go back to that one. There it is. Where'd you get that FinViz? All right, so here is the transactions. So these are the most recent ones. August 25th, Alice Watson. So let's go back to that day that we saw on Walmart. So here's Walmart, and really the day that I'm interested is not the earnings announcement day where it tanked. I'm interested in this one here, which would be July 26th, 25th. So unfortunately, it doesn't look like that one is there. Yeah, it doesn't go back far enough. But you know what I could do? I can go out here to something like FinViz. I go FinViz, and you can type in a ticker symbol. Let's go WMT, and then we'll just scroll down here to the bottom. It'll usually show you insiders. So, these are upgrades and downgrades. Come on, where's the insiders? There you go. Here's the insider trading. So let's go back to the exact date that I mentioned. It was July 26th, right? 25th is when they closed. They made the announcement. Next day it opens up on July 26th. So let's look at that real quick. July 26th, 28th. Well, the president's kind of stupid. He was actually selling. Oh, of course, but you notice this. When you look at these ones, don't think that he's timing the market. Notice that the president, Michael Douglas McMillan, the president of Walmart, he sells 9,708 shares once a month. So this is basically easy. He's making about $1.5 million a month just selling those shares. You got to love that. But that's just very consistent. And a lot of insiders will do that where they'll just sell repeatedly. So was anybody selling going into July? So July 23rd, but yeah, that's the president. So I don't really see anybody here. Ooh, nice. I don't really see anybody here that was actually unloading before that announcement on July 25th. So that's good to see. The president and CEO, that was just consistent, normal selling out of one's portfolio. There was a period of time, guys, there was a period of time where Bill Gates was selling 1 million shares of Microsoft every single day. It was just gut-wrenching to watch because it was like, $50. So he's making $50 million a day. Just sell 1 million shares every day like clockwork in the market. It drove me nuts. GD says, Merlin, where do you find the economic counter, the color codes, the importance of the data announcements? You can find that at Forex Factory. I take it out, but if here is Forex Factory, and you can see they have a little factory icon. A great resource. You got to trust but verify the data. But if you look at the U.S., let's call it, let's go to that CPI number that came out today. Click back here. You see the little red factory. This is obviously a very important one. And those are generally the ones that I am conveying to you. I will go through and say, these are the more important ones. There's obviously a lot of stuff happens each day, like Canadian wholesale sales, not the biggest market mover. This one actually, I didn't mean to pass this up. The German ZEW Economic Sentiment Report came out. It's slowly getting better, but still very bad at negative 36. There's also a couple pieces here. For those of you who are new to economic announcements, you can actually click on these and it will tell you a little bit of a brief rundown, some of the historical data. And off to the right, there's 3 little pieces here and you can actually see the price charts, or not the price charts, the data charts reflected for a variety of period of time. Looking pretty good, right? This does speak well of the Fed's actions and that raising those rates may have actually started to slow down inflation. Maybe it's the falling commodity prices, who knows? But this is obviously a very good thing for our markets going forward. All right, and I think I got to almost everything. What are my top 5 candlestick patterns? Number 1 is a hammer formation. Number 2 is a shooting star. Number 3 is a bullish harami. Number 4 is a bearish harami. And number 5, just a simple doji. And it could be top or bottom, right? A doji to me just represents indecision. And by itself, I don't care. It depends where it's at. So if I have a really strong run up, like you saw, let's go look at Amazon, right? Amazon's had a really nice run, but if all of a sudden tomorrow it has a little tiny compressed candle, kind of like it did here. You guys know, if you can't see my charts, I'll try to make it really big. But you can see yesterday, the 14th, that was a doji. And generally, that just represents hesitation, stalling of price. Now, the reason it shot up today is most likely due to the layoff announcements as well as some of the economic data. But those generally are going to be reversal patterns. I love to see those. And it's easy to trade because if I were to go forward here and let's just remove yesterday's or today's trading, right? So there's my my doji. So I put a line right across the top. I'll go put a line right across the bottom. Right, so all I've done is outline the high and low of that doji. And how am I going to trade it? Let's keep things as simple as possible. If it opens up inside, this is the key for me. If it opens up inside and rallies up, I'll go long. If it opens up inside and breaks down, I go short. If it opens outside of that range in any way, I leave it alone. And look what happened today. Gapped up, outside the range, who cares? Move on, next trade. That's about as simple as I want to keep it, or as complicated as I want to make it. So there you go. How do you do your taxes? Through my CPA. I don't self-do much anymore. You get statements from all your brokerage firms and banks. That's how it is. I just submit to all those and let them deal with it all. The crypto one's the harder one because there's been so many. For those of you who are in the CIL, I'm always moving and storing and transferring things. By the way, I said this for my CIL students, for the digital asset program students, and for anybody who will listen. If you have anything on a centralized exchange, you should get it off as soon as possible. That said, I do have some assets at Coinbase, Kraken, and Binance, which I may move some of that off. I actually think that those three exchanges are going to be okay. They're not doing the crazy lending and stuff that FTX has been doing. But if you have it on anything else, you should pull everything off as quickly as you can. I'm scrambling. I just got out last night some of my deposits at Crypto.com, which I think will be the next one to go under. I think Crypto.com is probably going to make an announcement in a week or two that they're freezing their accounts holdings and probably going to disappear. You can't spend almost $1 billion to name the Staples Center, the Crypto.com Center, when you don't have money. It's kind of crazy. So we saw the same thing with FTX doing Miami's arena. Well, Crypto.com may find themselves in a similar situation, although not as bad as FTX. But if you have something there, pull it off. I have two things on there right now. I have CRO, which is their native token. It's useless to me anywhere else other than Crypto.com. And then I have some Matic or Polygon that's locked up for another 30 days in one of their time deposits so I can get 7.5% yield. Trust me, if they're still liquid, as soon as that's done, I'm removing it. I just pulled a bunch of my Polygon and Matic off of that exchange last night. So happy to do that. And again, I don't care where you're at with crypto, move your stuff off exchanges. So I have, at this point, the only stuff I have on Celsius and Voyager, I'm stuck with, right? Because I couldn't get it out in time. If you have clickbait title, huh? You're right, Marty. We didn't talk about World War III or Article 5, but thanks for being a heckler out there, Marty. Love it. If you have anything on those things, get them off as quickly as possible. Therefore, you don't get stuck with anything on them. And you can always move back, right? Again, I recommend highly going to cold storage, going to your NanoLedger S, go to your X's, go to your Trezor, whatever you feel like. Just move that stuff and get it off the exchanges. All right, that's going to do it for me. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about short-term trading of futures. We've got Jerry Baldwin on the program, so I know a lot of you are looking forward to having Jerry on the program for tomorrow. Hopefully we'll get some wild action in the market so we can talk about some of the trades that Jerry made for the day. I may actually have some trades to speak of as well. Are you able to convert all that crypto back into dollars? Yes. Yep, all of it. Yep. For now, right? It's actually easy to do. You just have to have a centralized exchange in order to move it. Yeah, the TraderMerlin arena. No ambitions of ever having my name on an arena. But it'd be bad enough to have my name on a shot glass, as I got from one of our viewers, or a hat or a t-shirt. But I have no aspirations of anything like that. But yeah, I could sell and convert back into. But at this point, I want to buy and hold. I'm a hodler of it. So I know we'll have some down moves for a while. But ultimately, what I think is you're looking at 3, 4, 5 years down the road. When we get regulations, the dust settles, all the shady actors get kicked out of this space, then it will start to thrive. But it's going to take a while. It's going to be a slow process, especially with what's happened over the last 72 hours. Well, actually, call it last week in crypto. All right, everybody, thanks so much. Hope you enjoyed it. Be careful out there tomorrow. That retail sales numbers could create a lot of havoc in any of the retail companies that are trading. Of course, Walmart will probably be the positive one to jerk these markets up a little bit, but there's a lot more coming out for tomorrow. So I will see you guys with Jerry Baldwin tomorrow at 2 p.m. Pacific Eastern Standard Time. If you got questions, email me at TraderMerlin@gmail.com or put your comments down below the YouTube video. If you're a hater, as some people are like Marty that thought I was just doing clickbait, well, go back to the beginning, watch the show, and no, there was no clickbait. We actually did talk about World War III and trading. We also talked about Article 5 and, of course, the markets overall. That said, hope you guys have a fantastic remainder of your day. I'll see you tomorrow.